Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the why, what and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the articles displayed on the screen from The Hindu newspaper dated 6th October 2018 of the Delhi edition. And the timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So let us start our discussion for the day. This article on page number 1 is related to the pollution that is happening in the Musi River. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic Geography of India. Now under this article we will try to understand what are the important facts that are related to this Musi River. Further, it is a tributary of Krishna, so we will also try to learn about the other tributaries of Krishna River. Going ahead, we will also try to solve various questions that have been asked based on rivers in the UPSC preliminary examination. Now, if you go through the previous year questions that have been asked in the preliminary examination, you will realize that various questions have been asked based on tributaries of important rivers of India. For example, in the year 2017, a question was asked related to Teesta River. Further, in the year 2016, it was related to the tributaries of river Brahmaputra. And there were 3 other questions that were asked in the year 2015, 14 and 13. So at the end of this discussion, we will try to answer all these questions and learn the way in which UPSC has been asking questions based on the important rivers of India. Now, the Musi River is in news because of the widespread pollution in the river because of a rubber dam that has been built up on this river. However, this fact is not important for us. What is important for us is the geography of the river Musi. And in this line, it is a tributary of Krishna River and it flows through the state of Telangana. Further, Hyderabad city is located on this river. So if you see the map of tributaries of river Krishna, the Musi River is the left bank tributary of river Krishna. And the city of Hyderabad is located on this river. So these are 2 important facts that should be kept in mind related to the Musi River. And regarding the Krishna River, it rises in the Western Ghats and to the north of the Mahabaleshwar. So the origin of river Krishna is near Mahabaleshwar in the Western Ghats. Further important tributaries of Krishna River include the Koyna River, the Ghataprabha, the Malaprabha, Bhima, Tungabhadra, Musi and the Munneru. And some of these have been shown in this map here. For example, Bhima is one of the tributary of Krishna. Another important tributary is Varada. You should also know that Tungabhadra river is formed by the confluence of rivers Tunga and Bhadra. Further in this map we have seen that Musi is another tributary of river Krishna. So all these tributaries of river Krishna are important for us from exam point of view. Now let us try to solve the questions that have been asked based on rivers in the UPSC preliminary examination. In the year 2017, the question read, with reference to river Teesta, consider the following statements. And Teesta River was in news because of an agreement between India and Bangladesh. So the first statement reads, the source of river Teesta is the same as that of Brahmaputra, but it flows through the Sikkim state. Now this statement is incorrect because the source of river Teesta is in Pahunri Glacier and it is located on the northern side of Sikkim in the Himalayas. However, the source of river Brahmaputra is located in the western Himalayas. So the source of the river Teesta and Brahmaputra is not the same. The second statement reads, river Rangit originates in Sikkim and it is a tributary of river Teesta. So this is a correct statement. The third statement reads, river Teesta flows into Bay of Bengal on the border of India and Bangladesh. Now this statement is again incorrect because river Teesta does not directly flow into the Bay of Bengal. It is a tributary of river Brahmaputra and it is the Brahmaputra which flows and meets the Bay of Bengal. So this statement becomes incorrect. So the correct answer in this case is B, that is 2 only. That is river Rangit originates in Sikkim and it is a tributary of river Teesta. In the year 2016, the question read, which of the following is or are tributary or tributaries of river Brahmaputra? The name of the tributaries are the Dibang, Kameng and Lohit. So all these rivers are the tributaries of river Brahmaputra. So the correct answer is D, that is 1, 2 and 3. Now the question that was asked in 2015 was related to the tributaries of Godavari River. So this question reads, consider the following rivers and which of the above are tributaries of Godavari? So the names of the rivers are the Vamshadhara, Indravati, Pranahita and Pennar. So in this, only these 2 rivers are the tributaries of Godavari River. However, Vamshadhara and Pennar are not the tributaries of Godavari and these are independent rivers which directly flow into the Bay of Bengal. So these are the only 2 rivers which are the tributaries of Godavari River. So the correct answer in this case was D, that is 2 and 3 only. So you should try and learn about other tributaries of river Godavari as well. Further, the question that was asked in the year 2014 reads, consider the following rivers. The first river is the Barak River, second is the Lohit, third is the Subansiri. And the question reads, which of the above flows or flow through the Arunachal Pradesh? Now in this question, you should know that the Barak River flows through the state of Manipur. And due to this, you can easily eliminate all the three options A, C and D. So the correct answer comes out to be B, that is 2 and 3 only. Now regarding the question that was asked in the year 2013, it reads, the Narmada River flows to the west, while most other large peninsular rivers flow to the east. It has asked about the reason for this. So the first statement reads, it occupies a linear rift valley. So this statement is correct because the Narmada River flows through a rift valley and it flows from east to the west. While all the other important peninsular rivers like the Godavari, Krishna and the river Kaveri, all these flow from west to east. While Narmada and Tapi are only two important rivers of peninsular India which flow from east to the west. Now the second statement reads that it flows between Vindhyas and Satpuras. Now this statement is correct. However, it is not the reason for Narmada to flow from east to west. This statement is correct in itself because the river Narmada flows between the Vindhyas and Satpuras, but this is not the reason for Narmada to flow from east to west. Now the third statement reads, the land slopes to the west from central India. Now this statement is incorrect because the slope of the land is from the west to east. That is why all the major rivers are flowing from west to east. However, the only reason why Narmada flows from east to west is because it flows in a linear rift valley. And you should also know that the other river which flows in a linear rift valley is the Tapi River. So both the Tapi and Narmada rivers flow in a rift valley and both of these rivers flow from east to west. So this is another kind of questions that can be asked in the preliminary examination. So the correct answer in this case was A, that is 1 only. So after going through these questions, we realize that it is important for us to learn about major tributaries of the important rivers of India and also about the basics and the geographical features which are related to the important rivers. For example, this is a unique aspect which is related to Narmada and Tapi River, that both these rivers flow through a rift valley and they flow from east to west. So this is a unique feature. So you should also learn about such important unique aspects of Indian rivers. Now with this, let us move on to the next article. These articles on page number 1, page number 8 and page number 13 are related to the RBI's decision of leaving the key policy rates unchanged. So this will form a part of the General Studies paper 3 and it will also form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic Indian economy. Now regarding the concepts that we are going to discuss under this article, various questions have been asked in the year 2017, 2014, 2013 and 2012. So at the end of this discussion, we will try to answer these questions as well. Now these articles are in news because the Monetary Policy Committee has decided to keep the policy repo rates under the liquidity adjustment facility unchanged at 6.5%. So the Monetary Policy Committee has not changed the repo rates. Now since the repo rate has been left unchanged, consequently the reverse repo rate and the bank rate or the marginal standing facility remains at 6.25% and 6.75% respectively. And you should know that reverse repo rate is always lesser than that of the repo rate. However, the marginal standing facility or the bank rate is always higher than the repo rate. So we will also try to understand what is repo rate, what is reverse repo rate and what is marginal standing facility under this article. But first let us understand the rationale behind leaving the policy rate unchanged. Now in the DNS of 1st October 2018, we had learned that why the decision by RBI on policy rates will be a tricky call. Which means that should the RBI increase the policy rate or should the RBI decrease the policy rates? So you can go through this article and understand about the possibilities that were available in front of RBI. And why was the decision on policy rate a tricky call for RBI? However, now that the RBI has left the policy rates unchanged, let us understand the rationale behind this decision of RBI. Now earlier it was expected that the RBI would hike or increase the policy rate. And this was because of the domestic and the international factors. The domestic factors were the increase in inflation and the international factors were the increase in fuel prices and the depreciation of Indian rupee. However, the recent decision of RBI has taken the market by surprise. So let us understand the reasons for keeping the policy rates unchanged. Now the first factor which has led the RBI to keep the policy rates unchanged is that the RBI is expecting that the lower fruit prices in India would have a moderating effect on the inflation. Now the RBI expects that the food prices will remain low and this will lead to a moderating effect on the inflation. Secondly, the RBI has also taken into account the recent cut in excise duty on petrol and diesel by the centre. So due to this, there will be a decline in the fuel prices. Now due to these two factors, RBI has lowered its inflation forecast to about 3.9 to 4.5%, and which was earlier projected at around 4.8%. Further, it should be noted that in the last two meetings of the Monetary Policy Committee, the RBI had increased the policy rates by 25 basis points. So accordingly, now the RBI has not increased the policy rate and it has left it unchanged. Now, in spite of keeping the policy rates unchanged, the RBI has stated that it has changed its monetary policy stance from neutral to calibrated tightening. Now, under the neutral policy stance, the RBI would either increase or decrease the policy rates in order to control the money supply in economy. However, under the calibrated stance, the RBI would not decrease the policy rate, which means that it can either increase the policy rate or keep the rates unchanged. And the RBI has taken this calibrated stance because of the domestic and the international scenario in which the inflation and increase in the prices of fuel and the depreciation of rupee becomes important factor. Now these articles also highlight that the RBI's focus was on inflation and it was not on the exchange risk or the depreciation of rupee. In this regard, the articles say that the rupee has been facing tremendous pressure due to capital outflows. And one of the main reasons for capital outflows from India is due to the increase in interest rate in US. And the United States' federal bank had recently increased or hiked the interest rate. Now you should understand that an increase in the interest rates in any country makes the foreign investments attractive in that country. For example, now that the United States has increased the interest rates, the foreign investors find it attractive to invest in United States. This is because it yields them higher returns. So it was expected that RBI would also increase the interest rate in order to check the foreign outflows from India. And you should also know that whenever the interest rate is increased and the foreign investors start investing in a country, the demand for its currency increases. And once the demand for currency increases, the currency starts appreciating. Now in the present case, the RBI has left the policy rates unchanged and due to this, the interest rate has not increased. However, at the same time, the United States has increased the policy rates and it has led to an increase in the interest rate in United States. Due to this, the foreign investors are now investing more in United States and they are not investing much in India. And due to this, the rupee is depreciating. So due to this rupee depreciation, it was expected that RBI would increase the interest rates in order to check foreign outflows and the consequent rupee depreciation. However, in its monetary policy stance, the RBI has purely focused on its mandate of maintaining the rate of inflation. And it has not taken into account the exchange rate risk faced by rupee. And we know that if RBI had increased the interest rate, it would have become attractive for the foreign investors because of increased returns. And due to which, the demand for Indian currency would have increased and it would have led to appreciation of rupee. However, the RBI has not increased the monetary policy rate because it has now assumed that the food inflation is moderating and it will have a moderating impact on inflation. And this situation can be handled if the policy rates are left unchanged without any increase or decrease. However, the editorial and the articles highlight that the biggest challenge facing the RBI will be the prospect of further increase in rate by the United States' Federal Reserve, as well as the increase in interest rates by central banks of other developed countries. And in this regard, the editorials say that due to the increase in interest rates by US Federal Reserve and other developed countries' central banks, the RBI would be forced to look beyond its mandate of inflation. So these articles say that due to continuously depreciating rupee, the RBI will have to change its monetary policy stance multiple times in the coming months. Now, after understanding why the RBI has left the policy rates unchanged, we should also try and understand the monetary policy framework and the basics of monetary policy. So under the monetary policy framework, there is an agreement between the RBI and the central government. And under this, the RBI has been mandated to maintain a rate of inflation of about 4%. and this rate of inflation can either increase or decrease by 2%. You should know that monetary policy of India is announced by the Monetary Policy Committee and which was set up on the basis of Urjit Patel Committee's recommendations. Further, this Monetary Policy Committee has 6 members and 3 of these members are from RBI while the other 3 members are appointed by the government. So this is an important fact that should be noted. And regarding the members from the RBI, the first is the governor, who is the chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee, a deputy governor and one of the officers of RBI. While the government members are appointed by the center on the basis of recommendations of a search cum selection committee which is headed by the cabinet secretary. So this is another important point that should be noted. Now let us also try to understand the various monetary policy tools available with the RBI. The first in this line is the repo rate. And regarding the repo rate, it is the interest rate at which the RBI lends money to the commercial banks under its liquidity adjustment facility. And these repo rates are used as the policy rates or the interest rate anchor by the RBI to target inflation. Now let us understand how is the repo rate used as an interest rate anchor. Now as we know that RBI lends money to the commercial banks by the means of repo rate. Now for example, if RBI increases the repo rate, the borrowing for the banks will become costly. Now, as the banks have borrowed the money from RBI at a higher price, it will lead to an increase in the interest rate for common consumers. And thus, when the repo rate is changed, it will bring a corresponding change in the lending rates of commercial banks. So now the commercial banks will lend at a higher rate. And similarly, if the lending rate or the repo rate is decreased by the RBI, the borrowing for the banks will become easy and it will become cheaper. Correspondingly, there will be a decrease in the rate which the banks charge to its consumers. So what you should understand is that by changing the repo rate, the RBI tries to influence the interest rate in the economy. Now reverse repo rate is the opposite of the repo rate. And it is the rate at which the central bank of a country borrows money from the commercial banks. So earlier in the repo rate, it was lending to the commercial banks and now it is borrowing money from the commercial banks within the country. So it is also a monetary policy instrument which can be used to control the money supply in economy. So simply you should understand that if RBI increases the reverse repo rate, the banks will find it attractive to keep their money with the RBI because this will fetch them higher returns. Thus an increase in the reverse repo rate means that the commercial banks will get more incentive to park their funds with the RBI and thereby there will be a decrease in the supply of money in the market. And you should know that by decreasing the supply of money in the market, the RBI tries to check and control the inflation. So this is another tool that is available with the RBI. And the third tool that is available is the marginal standing facility. So under this, the banks can borrow from the bank by pledging the government securities at a rate higher than the repo rate under the liquidity adjustment facility. So this is also another facility by which the banks can borrow. However, the rate of interest will be higher as compared to the repo rate. So banks generally don't use this facility to borrow money from RBI. However, in case of any emergency or certain emergency like conditions, the banks have to borrow from the RBI and for that they have to use the marginal standing facility. And because they are borrowing at a higher rate from the RBI as compared to the repo rate, it is generally assumed as a penal rate. Because the higher interest rate under the marginal standing facility acts as a penalty for the banks. And you should know that the rate of MSF is higher than that of the repo rate. And we know that presently the repo rate is at 6.5%, the marginal standing facility is at 6.75%, which is higher than the repo rate, and the reverse repo rate is lower than that of repo rate, which is around 6.25%. Now regarding the questions that were asked in the previous year examinations, in 2017 the question read, which of the following statements are correct regarding the Monetary Policy Committee? Now the first statement reads, it decides the RBI's benchmark interest rates. So this statement is correct as we have read recently. The second statement reads, it is a 12-member body. Now this statement is wrong because it is a 6-member body. And the third statement reads, it functions under the chairmanship of Union Finance Minister. This is a wrong statement because the chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee is the RBI governor. So the correct answer in this case is A, that is 1 only. Now another question that was asked in the year 2014 reads, if the interest rate is decreased in an economy, what will be its likely impact? Now, the most logical answer in this case is that will lead to increase the investment expenditure in economy. Now, this is because once the interest rates are decreased, the businesses and the entrepreneurs will find it attractive to borrow from the banks and increase their investments for their business purposes. So, it will lead to an increase in the investment expenditure in the economy. Now, another question that was asked in 2014 read, the terms marginal standing facility rate and the net demand and time liabilities sometimes appearing in the news are used in relation to. So, the correct answer in this case was it is related to banking operations. Another question that was asked in 2015 read, supply of money remaining the same, when there is an increase in the demand for money, there will be. Now, the correct answer in this case is it will lead to an increase in the rate of interest. Why is it so? Now, as we know that the amount of money in the economy is same and there is no supply of new money. However, now the demand for this money has increased. And due to this increase in demand, there will be more number of people chasing the same amount of money. And due to this, the rate of interest on this amount of money will increase. So the correct answer in this case is it will lead to an increase in the rate of interest. Now the question that was asked in 2012 reads, which of the following measures would result in an increase in the money supply in economy? The first statement reads, purchase of government securities from the public by the central bank. Now this statement is correct because when the RBI purchases the government securities from the public, it leads to an inflow of money in the hands of public, and due to this, the supply of money in the economy increases. And we know that this happens under the open market operations. The second statement reads, deposit of currency in commercial banks by public. Now this statement is incorrect because the supply of money remains constant in this case, and there is no new additional money that has been pumped up in the economy. The third statement reads, the borrowing by this government from the central bank. Now this statement is correct because the government will be borrowing new money based on new securities from the RBI or the central bank. So this statement is also correct. The third is the sale of government securities to the public by the central bank. Now this statement is also incorrect because this will lead to a decrease in the money supply, because now when the RBI sells the government securities, it receives money in turn. So by this, the RBI sucks out the liquidity or money from the economy. So in this case, the correct answer is C, that is 1 and 3. Now after going through these questions, we understand that the monetary policy is very important for us from prelims point of view. So we should try and understand the monetary policy in detail and also try and solve as many questions as possible based on the monetary policy and its impact on Indian economy. With this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 1 is related to the Nobel Peace Prize of this year. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic Current Events of International Importance. And a question was asked in the year 2016 related to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And this organization won the Nobel Peace Prize for working towards the elimination of chemical weapons. Further, in the year 2016, a question was asked related to various communities sometimes mentioned in this. Now, one of the person, Nadia Murad, has won the Peace Prize and is a member of the Yazidi minority community. So this community also becomes important for us from exam point of view. Now, the Nobel Peace Prize for 2018 has been awarded to Congolese gynecologist Dr. Denis Mukwege and the Yazidi human rights activist Nadia Murad. And they have been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts to end the use of sexual violence as a weapon for war and armed conflict. And both these laureates have made a crucial contribution to focusing attention on and combating war crimes. And you should know that Nadia Murad is a survivor of sexual violence by the Islamic State. And we know that the presence of Islamic State is in the countries of Syria and Iraq. Further, we should know that Dr. Denis Mukwege, who is a gynecologist, had founded a hospital that helps the survivors of sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he is the first Congolese to win this award. He and his staff have treated thousands of sexual violence victims and is known as Dr. Miracle for his ability to repair the damage inflicted on women due to rapes during the war crimes. Further, Nadia Murad is a member of the Yazidi minority community in the northern Iraq, and she was held as a sex slave by the Islamic State, and she is the first Iraqi awardee of the Peace Prize. and Nadia Murad has openly and courageously spoken about her suffering at the hands of ISIS. In the year 2016, she was named the UN's first Goodwill Ambassador for the dignity of survivors of human trafficking. So these are the key points that should be noted. And regarding the Yazidi community, you should know that Yazidis are the members of Kurdish religious minority, and these people are found primarily in northern Iraq, southeastern Turkey, northern Syria, and parts of Iran. Now, regarding the question that was asked in the year 2016, the question reads, with reference to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, consider the following statement. The first statement reads, it is an organization of European Union in working relation with NATO and WHO. This is a wrong statement because OPCW is not an organization of the European Union. And you should know that it is the implementing body of the Chemical Weapons Convention that was signed in 1997. Second statement reads, it monitors chemical industry to prevent new weapons from emerging. This statement is correct. And the third statement reads, it provides assistance and protection to states, parties against the chemical weapon threats. This statement is also correct. Now, if you look at the options, you can see that the statement 1 is incorrect, and by this you can easily eliminate the options A, C and D. And by this, the correct answer becomes B, that is 2 and 3. Now, regarding the second question that was asked in 2016, the question was related to the community sometimes mentioned in the news and the country with which these communities are related. So the question reads, which of the pairs given above is or are correctly matched? The first is the Kurd community and the Bangladesh. Now, this is incorrect. The second is the Madheshi and Nepal. This is correct. And the third is the Rohingya in Myanmar. And we all know that this is also correct. So the correct answer in this case was C, 2 and 3. So by solving this question, we realize that the Yazidi community becomes important for us from prelims point of view. With this, let us move on to the next article. Now on page number 5, the Election Commission of India has published details about the electronic voting machines and the VVPAT. And this has been done in order to remove the misconceptions of general public relating to EVM and VVPAT. Now this will form a part of the General Studies paper 2 of the mains examination. And in the recently held mains examination in the year 2018, in the General Studies paper 2, a question was asked related to the controversy regarding the EVM machines. So the question reads, in the light of recent controversy regarding the use of electronic voting machines, what are the challenges before the Election Commission of India to ensure the trustworthiness of elections in India? So all the points that have been highlighted by the Election Commission of India on this page can be used in answering such questions. So to increase the trustworthiness of EVM or VVPAT, the Election Commission has said that about 113 general elections of state assemblies and 3 Lok Sabha elections in about 10 lakh polling booths or polling stations have been successfully conducted through the EVMs since 2000. So this is an important fact which increases the trust in the use of EVMs. This shows that we have successfully chosen 3 governments at center by use of EVM machines during the general elections. Further, the ECI says that with the introduction of voter verifiable paper audit trial or the VVPAT, the trust of voters in the EVMs has been strengthened. And regarding the VVPAT, the Election Commission of India says that it is an independent printer system attached with the electronic voting machines that allows the voters to verify that their votes are cast as intended. Which means that by the use of VVPAT printer system, a voter can identify if his vote has gone correctly to the party which he had chosen during the voting process. Now, the Election Commission of India has tried to remove various myths related to the VVPAT system. In this, the first myth that has been highlighted by the Election Commission of India is that the VVPAT slips are collected by the voter. Now, the Election Commission of India in this regard says that it is incorrect because the VVPAT slips cannot be touched by a voter. However, they are visible to the voter for 7 seconds behind a transparent screen, and at the end of which these voter slips fall into a sealed compartment in the VVPAT. The second myth that has been highlighted by the ECI is that the VVPAT print will not last more than 15 to 30 days. The ECI says that this myth is also incorrect, and in this regard the ECI says that the print is on a thermal paper and it lasts for more than 5 years and not just for 15 to 30 days. Now, the third myth regarding the VVPAT is that the VVPAT takes photo of the voter, thereby compromising the secrecy of the votes. In this regard, the Election Commission of India says that this myth is also incorrect because the VVPAT has no camera and it can't take any photograph of the voter. Highlighting the fourth myth, the Election Commission of India says that the Election Commission does not have requisite number of VVPATs for use in all polling stations for the election to Lok Sabha to be held in 2019. However, the ECI says that ECI is committed to 100% deployment of VVPATs with EVMs at all polling stations in all future elections to the Parliament and state legislative assemblies. So the ECI says that the VVPATs shall be available as per the requirement. The fifth myth related to the VVPATs that has been highlighted by this article is that the large number of VVPATs stop working, resulting in stoppage of polls. The ECI has said that it is incorrect and there have been some instances of VVPATs stopping during polls. However, adequate reserves are provided for replacing such faulty VVPATs. Further highlighting that EVMs are an improvement over the ballot system, the Election Commission of India says that the EVMs have ended the days of booth capturing and the delays and errors in counting of ballot papers. Further, the ECI or the Election Commission says that the counting is now over in about 3 to 6 hours, whereas earlier it used to take about 24 to 48 hours. Thirdly, the Election Commission of India says that earlier during the times of ballot paper, large number of votes in each assembly constituency ended up being invalid. And this was higher than the winning margin in several elections. However, with the usage of EVMs, no vote gets invalidated. And the source which the Election Commission has highlighted is the study conducted by the Indian School of Business or ISB. And regarding the authenticity and secrecy of the EVMs and VVPATs, the Election Commission says that the EVMs and VVPATs are manufactured only at two premium PSUs. The first is the Electronics Corporation of India Limited (ECIL), and the second is the Bharat Electronics Limited or the BEL. And further, these EVMs and VVPATs are manufactured under the technical expertise of an independent technical expert committee and the supervision of Election Commission, making them absolutely tamper-proof. Which means that EVMs and VVPATs are tamper-proof as they are conducted under the surveillance or the supervision of Election Commission of India. And highlighting the usage of VVPATs, the Election Commission of India has said that the VVPATs have been used in 933 state assembly constituencies and 18 parliamentary constituencies. Further, the ECI says that till date, VVPATs have been used in all assembly constituencies at 100% polling stations during the General Assembly elections in 7 states of Goa, Himachal Pradesh, Gujarat, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Tripura and Karnataka, which were held in 2017 and 18. So various points have been highlighted by the Election Commission of India to remove various myths that are circulating among the people of India. And the Election Commission of India has been conducting this campaign to generate awareness and increase the trust of Indian people and the Indian electorate in the electronic voting machines and the usage of VVPATs. So all these points can be used in writing the question that was asked in the year 2018 in the General Studies paper 2 of the mains examination. With this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 7 is in news because methanol has been used for the first time as a cooking fuel in India. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic General Issues on Environment. Now this article is in news because for the first time in India, around 500 people were given a stove with around 1.2 liters of methanol as a part of a pilot project by the Assam-based Assam Petroleum Chemicals Limited, or the APL. And APL is India's first public sector producer of methanol and formalin from natural gas as a feedstock. And this pilot project has been initiated by Niti Aayog. And regarding the environmental importance of methanol, methanol can be used on its own as a vehicle fuel, or it can be blended directly into gasoline to produce high octane, efficient fuel with lower emissions than the conventional gasoline. And you should know that methanol gasoline blends have widespread use in China. Secondly, the methanol is also emerging as a clean burning marine fuel. And it is a cost effective way to meet the shipping industry's increasingly stringent emission regulations. Thirdly, the methanol is used to produce methyl tertiary butyl ether or MTBE. and it is a gasoline component that improves air quality, and dimethyl ether, which is a clean burning fuel with similar properties to propane. So these are two other important properties of methanol. And finally, the methanol is also a key component in biodiesel, which is a renewable fuel that can be used in place of or blended with the conventional diesel fuel. So all these uses of methanol make it environmentally very important. So these points should be kept in mind with regard to methanol. With this, let us move on to the next article. Now there are three news articles. The first is related to the India-Russia deal of S-400 missiles. It is on page number 1. The second news is related to the deaths of lions in Gir forest. It is on page number 7. And the third news is related to the polio vaccine, and it is also on page number 7. Now all these three news have been covered previously in the Daily News Simplified. Now the details of S-400 missile and the related issue has been discussed in detail in the Daily News Simplified of 4th October 2018 by Navid sir. So you should go through this DNS to understand this issue. And regarding the article related to the death of lions in Gir forest, this has also been previously covered in the Daily News Simplified of 5th October 2018 by Basava sir. So to understand this in detail, you should go through this video. And regarding the news related to the polio drop vaccination and the issues associated, it has been covered in the DNS of 4th October 2018 again by Navid sir. So you should try and go through this DNS video to understand the issue of polio virus in detail. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now let us move on to the question for the day.